Welcome, everybody. My name is Ralph Piccolo, Director of Sales for Cimatron. I'd like to thank everybody for taking their time to attend this virtual user group meeting. We got a lot of stuff to show, so look forward to showing everything that's new in 2024. So now let's see 2024, the CAM portion of the release. And I'm going to turn it over to Danny Schellenberger, our sales engineer, to present all the new features and functions. Here you go, Danny.
Welcome to Cimatron 2024 user group meeting. Today I'll be covering NC. As a reminder, we encourage you to ask questions in the chat. I'll try to answer them at the end with some help from my colleagues. This session is being recorded and will be released soon. Thank you for joining me. At Cimatron, we now have connect.cimatron.com. It's an exciting new tool that gives the user another option to communicate with the Cimatron team. Let's take a look. In your web browser, go to connect.cimatron.com. If you haven't registered, click to register now, fill out all the information, and submit. The team will send you back an email with the verification code to log in. I've already registered, so I'll go ahead and sign in. Here we'll find several valuable tools, a knowledge base to learn more about Cimatron, support cases where all of your support cases exist and you can follow up with them, file management where you can send us files or collect files from us. You can suggest a feature, download products, and download TeamViewer, or go to cimatron.com. Let's start with suggest a feature. Here, I invite you to go ahead and read through the existing improvement requests and vote for them if you like them. If you don't see any that you like, or if you have other ideas, you can add a suggestion. If there are any that you're curious about, you can search to see if they've already been included. Download products. This will give you access to Cimatron 2024. You'll simply click on the link and it will download. I will go ahead and cancel the download because I don't actually need it. I have it installed. Download TeamViewer, the knowledge base. In the knowledge base, we'll choose Cimatron. Here, things have been divided into topics. Today, I'm covering NC. I can search for topics in the list, or I can simply put in the search up here at the top. So if I have questions about profile cutting, I can type in profile, and I can search through the list to see if there's anything that matches what I'm looking for. If I click on the item, it'll take me to the article that explains how to use the feature in Cimatron. Once I'm done, I'll go ahead and rate this or submit feedback for a request for more information. Support cases. If I'm curious about where my support cases are, I can simply click here, search by case number, search by filter, or go through all of my current logs. File Manager. Here, I can share files with the Cimatron team. I do that in My Files. I can right-click and add a new folder. If I want to add files to the folder, I can navigate to them on the PC, then drag and drop them here. As I'm finished with the files, I also have the option to right-click and delete them. I can also right-click and delete the folders. If I'm expecting files from support, I would find them in this particular folder. This is read-only. You won't be allowed to add. If there are files that pertain to any of my cases, they'd be located in these folders. In support cases, I can search through my existing case logs. I can either search by number or I can filter in the description. We can even create a new case. Maybe I have questions about drilling. I set the priority. Critical if my machines are stopped. High, medium, or low, depending on the need and how fast you have to have support. Maybe I'd like to know how to set ranges in automated drill. I can go ahead and click Submit, and that will become a new case. Finally, we can go to Cimatron.com. Here, we can read about the news, events, and webinars, or we can go to support from the Contact Us. You see our support number, our email for support, and an option to download TeamViewer. Let's move on. Hide lines behind faces. This is a new option that's currently turned on by default. It can make creating and selecting contours difficult. Consider setting up a hotkey to toggle it on and off. There's a new procedure in local operations for 3x deburring. Pick faces to create a round or chamfer break on a contoured edge. It supports single or multi-cuts. Let's take a look at that. From the main selection, we'll choose local operations, 3x deburring. I'll choose a ball cutter. I'll filter for an 1/8 inch. I'll go to the tool trajectory access. I'll choose my part surfaces. I'm going to set the part flat, and I'm going to choose the paintbrush. I'm going to increase the size just a little bit, and I'm going to paint around the outside of the block. I'll select my middle mouse button. There may be edges that I want to ignore, so I have the option to do that. For instance, I may not actually want to do this lower edge or up this vertical wall, so I can exclude those. I set the edge shape by constant width or constant depth. I'll choose width. I'll leave that set to 5 thousandths. I can define the inner corners either to trim or relieve by gouging an extra material out, and then I'll choose the cut direction as climb. I'll machine a flat, and I'll use a single cut. In tool axis control, I can add values for tool and holder clearances. And linking, I can define the height where the cutter is coming out and in. I'll go ahead and save and calculate. Then we'll review the tool path. If we take a look in the navigator, I'll go ahead and drop it down closer. You'll notice the cutter is maintained normal to the edge. You also notice that it walks around and walks up and over the profile around the outside of the part. Let's go to the next item. There's a new procedure in Convert to 5X, Auto 5X Tilt. This new option has faster calculations and smoother motions than the older Convert to 5X Tilt or 5X Auto Tilt. Let's take a look at that. I have two identical remachine procedures, 54 and 56. The Convert 5X Tilt 55 is the old. The calculation time for this procedure was 39 minutes and 22 seconds. Convert 57 is the new sequence. When we look at the execution log for this, the calculation time was 3 minutes and 55 seconds. The performance for this type of procedure has increased significantly. Let's take a look at this in the simulator. I'll turn off material removal and go to quick so it'll be a little bit faster. I'll go ahead and shut off the datums. Zoom in. Navigate to some of the more interesting toolpath. Hide the toolpath. Slow the simulator. Click the play button and wait for it to catch up. Notice the smooth motion in the machine. There's not a ton of unnecessary motion in the A or C axis. Just a smooth flowing toolpath around the part. Let's take a look at what's next. We have two new preferences for automatic feed control: to enable, disable, and to set the max feed rate override percentage. Automatic feed control has an updated algorithm. It will increase tool life while reducing overall roughing time. We did 3 test cuts, all on a DMU 210FD with the Siemens 840D control, capable of 0.6 G acceleration. In the first test cut, the program savings time was 18.1% faster. The actual runtime was 9% faster at the machine. In the second test cut, the program time showed 9.1% faster, while the real cut time was 4.3% faster. In the third and final test, the program time was 13.8% faster, while the real cut time was 7.6% faster. Let's take a look. From the Preference Manager, we'll search AFC. You'll find the option Use Yes or No and the maximum feed rate override percentage. AFC is used in volume milling, rough spiral, rough parallel, and volume pocket. You can find it in the Machine Parameters tab, checked on, and 125%. This won't switch your old procedures, but it will when you create new. There's a new stock by solid. It's intended to be used as a first choice instead of stock by surfaces. It's more accurate, but it must have a solid object as input. .5X Pro now supports use and update stock. This simplifies the process, especially if there's a stock update. Let's take a look at these two things. When I created this toolpath, I had created a solid stock. The solid object is right here. It was a simple extrude up from the bottom of the block to replicate what might have happened in a previous operation. The stock object itself comes from the drop-down stock. I have the option to add an offset. This stock is more accurate than stock by surfaces. The second one had to do with 5-axis machining. In a 5X Pro procedure, we can update the stock and have been able to for quite some time. And this 5X Pro can also consider the previous stock. However, it's been a complex process in the past. I would have to select the previous procedure, select the remaining stock, save the file, import it back in as an STL, and then inside the procedure, I could go to the roughing tab and define the previous stock. New in Cimatron 2024, I now have the ability to simply use the option Use Stock. When I do that, the system goes ahead and trims away the unnecessary toolpath so that only toolpath exists where the remaining stock was. Let's take a look at what's next. In the NC Process Manager, there's a new right-click command to sync the cutters to match the defined parameters for the material corresponding to the tool library material settings. There's a new column that's been added for the cutter sync status to go along with that command. And there's also been a new column for template name added. Let's take a look at those. If I change the materials in the setup to something else, previously I would have to go through and update each of the procedures. In Cimatron 2024, I can right click and I can see in the column chooser the option to turn on cutter sync status. We can see the first few procedures have a parameter conflict. I can select these procedures, right click, and say synchronize parameters. When I do that, I can choose to synchronize all parameters or update the motion parameters only or the machine parameters only. When I apply a job from a template, I can now display the template name in the column of the NC Process Manager. I do have the opportunity to select my toolpath or my procedures, right-click, and clear this information if I'd like. For templates, there's a new application, Convert NC Templates. This is in the NC tab of the control panel. There's also a new workflow to save templates. This will automatically capture a picture, allow you to define the material, and there's a new template manager. Available with an NC file open, users can review and edit templates. Templates must be updated to 2024 to use this tool. Let's take a look at this. So I'll find the Cimatron control panel. Go to the NC tab, Convert NC Templates. I'll double click that. I'll navigate to my template directory, choose the folder I want to convert, select OK, and execute. Once I'm done with that, then I can go to the NC Utilities tab, grab the template manager, navigate to a folder that's been updated, select any of my templates, view information about the template in the right-hand pane. In this case, I might select all of these procedures, change the coolant to off, save that. Then if I review any one of these, you'll notice that it's off. There's one last update for templates. It has to do with when we save them. I'll right-click and go to Template, Save Template. You'll notice you get a black box on the screen. You'll use this to capture the picture that's going to go along with the template. You can give it a name. You can give it a comment. You can set the material. You can hit the green check, navigate to where it's going to be saved. Then when you're ready to apply it later, you'll right-click, go to Templates, Apply Template, locate the template. You get a picture to help you with that. Once you've located it, then you can also go in and change the template just as we were before. For automated drill, there's a new sequence editor. This function is only available when no files are open. It builds the geometry to help the user edit the procedure automatically. Let's take a look at that. So I have to have an empty Cimatron. We'll close this when I'm done with it. From the Tools dropdown, I'll edit a sequence. I'll choose the sequence I plan to edit. The system builds the geometry and creates an automated drill procedure. Here, I can adjust all of the ranges, verify the anchor points or change them, update any of the settings in the motion parameters. I can change the cutter, show only the active hole as the only option. I can, on exit, save and close this file, or I can save and keep the file open. When I hit the green check, the sequence is updated and the file is closed. Roughing. In version 2024, we've embedded pre-drilling inside volume rough. This will reduce or eliminate plunging. It can be done before the roughing or during the roughing cycle. The pre-drill may consist of up to 3 cycles inside the rough procedure. The procedure may be divided by cutter after the calculation. The procedure is marked as a multi-cutter procedure. So let's take a look at that. I'll create a new procedure. It'll be a volume milling rough spiral. I'll select the part surfaces just by swiping them on the screen. I'll make sure that the cutter that's selected is the one I anticipate using. Flat 12 millimeter is fine. I'll go to the Machine Parameters tab, and under Entry and End Points, I'll add by cycle the drilling cycle option. It's important that I go ahead and mark this as no plunging. I'll define the cycle choosing a cutter that's larger than my 12 millimeter. I have a flat bottom drill, 12.7 millimeters diameter. It's important to understand that a regular tip angle will leave a portion of the pocket unmachinable because the procedure was set to no plunging. The top starts at ST and the bottom goes to BT. I can add deltas if I want to stay up off of the floor. Maybe we'll stay 10 thousandths off of the floor. I set the speed and the feed. I can have multiple processes. So if I wanted to spot drill before or pre-drill, that would be an option. I'll hit the green check. I'll hit save and calculate. The system will go ahead and create the tool path. I'll divide it by tool change so we can see the results. The first part of the procedure, rough down to the first shelf. The second part, drilled the 3 entry holes that are required. And the final, machined what was left. So the other option that I had when I did this procedure would be to drill the holes first. If I do that, the system will drill the 3 holes first. This time, let's take a look at that in the machine simulator. Let's see what's next. Next is the machine simulator. The runtime for fast forward and movie mode are up to 30% faster than the previous version. The simulator report has also been updated. It has new sorting tools. Filters were added to help the user navigate the report. I've created 2 procedures that will definitely violate the block. They're profile cuts, and in one case, the holder will go through the block. I'm going to go ahead and hide some stuff so we can see what's going on. And then I'll click Ignore Stops. Let the system go ahead and run through the cut. We can see it's already finding some errors. Let's take a look at those errors. When we go to the report, you'll notice that we have new column sorting tools. Up at the top, part of what we're dealing with are machine limits. When we look at the machine limits and we select each of these, it'll take us to where the motion is that's a problem. We have a collision with the holder. Let's say I only am interested in collisions. I'll say collisions only, and then from the drop down here, I can see whether they're cutter or holder collisions. So I've got a collision with the stock in the holder, and if we look at that, what I've done is use too short of a cutter in my holder, and we can play through. Let's slow that back down from the first collision, and then we'll play. You can see where the collision happens with the part. And sort through those. New in the Navigator, the user can display the toolpath nodes to see their distribution. The option must be turned on in the Preferences. The Navigator also has an updated information bar. It's been changed to provide more feedback to the user. Let's take a look. From the Navigator, I have the option turned on to display toolpath nodes. What that means is I can zoom in and take a look at the point distribution of the toolpath. This particular toolpath was done with fine surface quality and a point distribution about 18,000ths of an inch. If you don't have this box checked or even visible, it isn't turned on in your preferences. You go to Preferences, and you can search for nodes. It's in General NC. It's a checkbox here at the bottom. In the Navigator, you'll also notice the updated information bar. UCS by NC Tool has a new option to set the x-axis. This is also available in the machine preview. Let's take a look. So often when I'm doing 3+2 machining, it's common to create a coordinate system tilted out for whatever reason. In this particular case, I may want to put one down in this area, so I'll create either a new procedure or use by NC Tool here at the top. I'll choose the option to create a UCS from the procedure, pick the point I want to use, dial in the angle I think that I want to use. At this point, I also want to consider what the x-axis is. So I'm going to set the x-axis direction. This opens up the interactive UCS in the corner and out here on the part. I'll go ahead and select by reference and choose the cylinder at the bottom so the arrow is pointing this direction. I'll hit the green check, and I will go ahead and leave this at the last indicated point so we can see it. Notice the x-axis of the coordinate system is along the cylinder at the base that I had chosen. This is also available from the Machine Preview tab. From here, I can place the coordinate system in however I would like. Let's do cutter orientation. We will pick a point. We will make sure that this is set normal to face so that I get the tilt that I'm expecting. We'll bring it up to the value that I'm looking for. Once I select OK, during the process of creating the UCS and exit, I have the option to set the x-axis. So in this scenario, I will again choose by reference. This time, I'll pick a curve. I'll hit the green check. I'll go ahead and adjust my clearance plane. Hit the green check. Multi-cutters by tool life. Splitting toolpath was previously done in the post-processor. It's now integrated into the NC process. The procedure may be divided by tool change after the calculation. The procedure is marked. Let's take a look at that one. So I'll go to the first toolpath in the first procedure. Let's take a look at the execution log. This runs approximately 4 hours. I know that my tool life is about an hour. So what I will do is simply go to the NC Edit multi-cutters for tool life. I'll select that function and I'll change the cutting time to 62 minutes. I want to divide only in the air, and then I want to replace cutters not from a list, but I'll create new cutters. Your options are you can create them from a list if they already exist, or create new cutters or pause to machining. I am going to create new cutters. For the magazine numbers, I'm going to start with magazine 26, in increments of 1, and a maximum of 10 new cutters. If you try this particular process and it doesn't actually divide it, the output may tell you that you don't have enough cutters created. You may need to increase this number, or you may need to increase the number of cutters that you've sistered. We'll go ahead and hit the green check, let the system divide the procedure. I will go ahead and divide this by cutter change, and then we'll take a look at each of the procedures. So I'll turn them off. The first one, let's see if it actually gives us an execution runtime. Summary, the estimated runtime on the new procedure is 1 hour and 11 minutes. The second one, 1 hour and 16 minutes. So let's look at the procedures. The first procedure, second procedure, we'll turn it blue. The third procedure will turn green. And then the final procedure will leave black. I'll go ahead and turn them all on so we can see them overlaid with one another. Let's see what's next. Holders. Now the holder diameter may be smaller than the cutter. And when importing holders, we can define the bottom point of the holder where the cutter attaches. Often shell mills are larger than the holder they're attached to. This will allow you to define them more realistically without using an extra shank workaround. Let's take a look. I'll go to my holder library. Here, I'll choose the holder library that I want to work in. I'll go to import shaped holder. I'll navigate to the folder where it exists. I'll select it. Now in the second row, I have an option to pick the bottom point, which will be down here where the cutter attaches, and the top point where the machine interfaces with the holder. Once I hit the green check, it builds that into my holder library. I went ahead and pulled up the cutter library from version 16. In here, you notice that I have several 2-inch cutters defined. This 2-inch cutter is the one that I used in the file that I've been showing you today. You notice that the bottom diameter of the cutter is small. all of the 2-inch cutters have a smaller shank than the diameters of the holders. If we look at the holder, the bottom diameter of the holder here is 49.53, and the bottom diameter of the shank is 38.1, and the top is 38.154. And that's because in previous versions, we weren't able to create a cutter that was a larger diameter than the holder. So we would add the extra shank as a workaround. Now, in version 2024, if I go to the cutter library and I find that same cutter, I can now turn the shank off in this cutter because it's no longer required. I also have the ability to go ahead and import the cutter holder that I had just imported a moment ago into this tool. Once I've added that, I can go ahead and hit the green check. The interesting thing, however, is that when we go back to version 16 and we go to the cutter library again, you'll notice that it is now an invalid cutter and it is not usable as it is. So if we're going to use this cutter still in version 16, we can't eliminate the shank yet. For probing, we've added support for cylindrical shaped probes. And measurement on machine inspection has been updated to allow the user to box select point geometry. And we can lock the coordinates by plane. Let's take a look at those. I'll go ahead and hide that toolpath. In this case, I have some point geometry already created on the part. I'll create a new procedure. This will be a measuring procedure. I'll choose all machine inspection. I'll choose the tool. In this case, I'll add it from my cutter library. I'll choose my Renshaw probe. I will go to my measurement cycle, click the points option, and then box pick all the points on the screen. The system chooses the normal because the points were created from the surface. Points on a line will not react the same, and you won't have control over the normal direction. I'll then hit the green check. Green check. Make the adjustments to any actions that I want to happen. Define the position tolerance, the upper deviation, the lower deviation. Go ahead and save and calculate that. I also have the option, create a new procedure. Let's go ahead and do a measurement procedure again. This time, let's choose a cutter. I'll choose the original sphere that I had, duplicate that, name that from a ball to a cylinder. We'll choose a cylinder from the drop down. We'll adjust the diameters and the heights. Go ahead and accept that. I'll select multi. This time, I'll select the points. I'll lock Z. I'll drop this down. Let's do this first. Figure out where this is, then we'll lock Z at 350. Now we can pick more points on that plane. Once we're done, we can do the same as we did before, define any of the settings that we want to change, save and calculate. In this case, say stock don't use. Let's see what's next. We have a new integration with NC-Simil that requires a license of the product. This integration is similar to the one with Vericut. We can now import cutters and holders from Sandvik CoroPlus. It's a tool management system with an integration to the Cimatron cutter library. There's a 30-day free trial available. We can also import cutters and holders from TDM Systems. It's a tool management system with an integration to the Cimatron tool library. It also has a 30-day free trial available. Thank you for watching the video portion of the presentation. Next, we'll go ahead and answer some questions.
Okay, Danny, one of the question was, the material library is included with the upgrade of the latest version, or do we have to download it? So
The
if you want to talk.
The material library is just a library that lives on your computer. If you go up to tools, you can edit your material library at any time. With the basic install, you'll notice most likely that in 2024 you ended up with some new materials, and this is going to be changing again in the next version, I think, to add some more columns, at least one more column for sure, the way I understand it. But inevitably you can come in here and you can edit these, you can delete materials, you can insert rows, add new materials. The important part right now is that the name is unique. So in this particular scenario, if I'm cutting H13 that's preheat treat, I'm going to choose this material. If it's already hardened to 45 Rockwell, I'm going to choose this material. And that's how I can control the settings in the tool library. If we go to the tool library, or cutter library rather, and we go to any of the cutters that have materials defined, we can find feeds and speeds for the specific material. And in my case, I have them segregated by hardness. So for preheat treated, I use this. For hardened, I use that row.
But this material library, that was in version 16 and even in version 15, or no?
Yes. Yeah, it's been in the software for quite a while.
Okay.
I think 15, maybe 14 even. I'm not 100% sure about 14, but I know it was in 15 and in 16.
Okay. And then I see some of the support guys jumped on and answered some of the questions, but I'd like to just go through it a little bit here. In AutoDrill, is there a way to create a sequence in a procedure?
Let's just talk about AutoDrill for a second.
Okay.
So in theory, right now, you guys are creating an auto drill procedure just like I've got right here. And, you know, in the last version, we added the ability to switch to automatic so that you can automatically drill the holes just by applying a template. I believe it was the last version anyway, version 16. So I typically will go to the group manager. It's going to prompt me to select the surfaces. I tend to be very selective when I select these surfaces to only select the holes that I want, or the areas and surfaces that are part of the holes I want to drill. Then I'll pick the holes that I want to drill and let the system group them. The question that I saw was, well, what if I have a sequence or a hole that doesn't exactly fit? How do I add that sequence? So just a tip, I noticed that the question was pretty much answered in the chat, but just a tip, when I'm looking at, say, a counterbore hole like this, and I don't have one created for this, when I go to load a sequence, I always load a sequence that has the same shape hole. So in this particular case, this hole had a chamfer at the bottom. I don't want to use it. I want to use one, and I don't see that in this one. I want to use one that's the same shape hole. So it's a counterbore socket head cap screw. And the beauty of that is, even if the cutter doesn't match, all of the anchors update automatically. Then I can come in and simply grab the correct size drill, which was a 406 for this hole. So I'd grab, and I'm pretty sure I've got one in here. There's my 406, 13/30 seconds. Replace that, adjust the ranges as required. So I don't tend to set ranges on my diameters for my holes. I don't think that it's a great idea, even for clearance holes. This would be the closest case, though, would be like a counterbore hole where I would do that, and then update the range down here based on the length of the tool. So this particular tool is the one that's going the deepest. It can cut up to approximately 4.5 inches. So I'm going to say that it can go 4.2 safely. And then I'll rename this. This is going to be 3/8 now instead of 1/4 inch. Now, if we believe that there are other 3/8 holes that are very similar, but maybe the counterbore depth is different or the overall thickness of the plate is different in that area, at that point, we can do an auto fit, and we can use the auto fit option not to go to the catalog, but stay within this ELT and within this procedure. I don't know if there are any. I think that I don't have multiples. These are all pretty much one-ofs all the way around. So hopefully that helps just a little bit. Let's move on, see if there are any other questions.
There's a profile open contour under 2.5 that will follow a 3D contour.
Yes. So let's close this one. Let's open something with some shape. Cavity. Y'all probably sick of looking at this part. So in theory, if I wanted to drive just a curve out here in the center, that's a new procedure. There's a couple different ways we can go. It could be a surface milling, profile open or close contour. I'll pick the contour first. Doesn't matter which you do first, but I'm going to choose the contour. Notice that I can't see my curve from view. If we go unclick hide curves behind, now we can see most of our curve. I'll hit the middle mouse button and we'll get that. Now I have to pick some part surfaces. It's probably best if I at least pick all of these. I need to pick a cutter. Let's choose a ball cutter. We'll filter for the 1/8 inch because that worked well in the video. We'll put a stock width on this. So stock width 0.1, side step 0.003. We'll go bi-directional, down step single pass, so on. save and calculate. And that gives us the path that I believe you were asking for. Now, if we were doing a closed contour, we'd see it as a closed contour. Let's navigate through that and see what it's doing, because that looks a little bit as the contact point. So it's maintaining the contact point as it goes up and over. And because that is on an angle, it steps side to side through.
Did what you wanted it, what you told it.
It did what I told it to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mathematically, sometimes it's a little bit different than what I might have expected, because that's just how it works. The other option would have been to use a local operations. So in local operations, if we go to local 3x, we'll keep the drive surface, we'll keep the ball cutter, and we'll change the option here to parallel to a curve or project curves, either one. If I go parallel to a curve, now let's do project curve. We'll choose the projection. Choose that, and then if I've got a, I believe I can choose left or right, and then offset. I believe also there's an option to do extra cuts, but this wouldn't be my first choice, to be honest. Maybe parallel to multiple curves would be a better option. We'll pick the edge curve. So project will allow you to cut one. And this time I'm going to pick less drive surfaces because I don't need these over here. And it looks like my line's a little bit long over here. We're going to say number of cuts. Let's do 6 at 5 thousandths and zigzag. I'm going to also turn on gouge checking to make sure, 100% sure, that I don't gouge down through the part more than I expect. And that gives me the passes on the part. In this particular case, it gets really funny based on going up and down the hill. In that case, we probably want to try to use calculate based on tool center. There's a bit of a step there. That's where the problem comes in. I didn't even see that. So yeah, always going to have an issue when the lines don't meet up correctly. If we were to have sketched in a line like so above the part and chosen that line with any of the procedures, we would probably have gotten better results. So the curve doesn't actually have to lay on the surface, it just has to project down. That's probably more what you were looking for. Just remember that it is a profile procedure in the background. So keep in mind the approach and the retracts, normal, normal, or tangent, tangent. I'll go ahead and set those to 0 so it doesn't start over here and leave a track on the part. And that's sort of how I would go about cutting it.
Okay, a question here. I noticed the column chooser doesn't save from file to file. I choose my columns in the NC Process Manager, and when I open a new file, it reverts to default.
Yeah, it
You know,
hasn't. That's going to be dependent on when you close Cimatron. If you've got multiple sessions open, like I often do, most of the settings will only be sticky if it's the last session that you've opened or closed rather. So close all but one session, make the change that you want, close that session, and the system should be better at remembering. But if you've got 2 sessions open, you make a change to one and not the other. If the second is the last one to close, it'll overwrite what you changed in the first one.
Are there any plans on improving auto drill formulas to be able to use previous cutter information so that drills can be activated if others are? Do you understand that one, Danny?
That's just not how it's designed. So if you want to use multiple cutters in an automated drill, then the functions, the sequences would have to be set up with some intelligence within them. But you can only turn on and off based on mathematical rules, not based on cutter rules. So it's just not how the function was ever intended to be used, and I don't believe the foundation exists to be able to do that. So it'd be going backwards pretty far to be able to accept that. It does sound like an okay idea, but that portion of the product works very well. It's just time consuming to set up, but once it's set up, it works very well.
Another one is here, copy and paste geometry transfer. Does copy and paste geometry still transfer boundary offsets? It's very annoying to add a roughing template at 0.01, then a finishing at 0, pick the geometry for the roughing one, copy and paste it to the finish in it, and have it also switch the offset to 0.01 plus.
Let's find out. I'll go see if I can find an old template.
I think these kinds of questions are great questions to either get on to Connect and log those calls or log them to support. The sooner we get them into support, if they are a problem, the sooner we get them to support, then the sooner we can get it into R&D and get them fixed and updated to, to the next patch or release.
No guarantees what this tool path can look like. We'll copy and paste geometry. So this one was a rough procedure. This one would have finished the outside. The question is, did the offset change? So I believe so. Let's reapply the template just to verify that. Yeah, it's still changed. It is a known issue, and they are working on it for sure, because that has been pointed out a couple times by some other users.
This one here has been answered, but for those that are not reading the chat, can hide curves behind faces be turned off by default? And then Andy's saying that the next pass should take care of this.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily want it to 100% be turned off. I like the functionality when I'm working on a part that has a lot of wireframe around it. So if I'm doing engraving on a part, a lot of times you don't necessarily want to see that until you're ready to actually pick it to machine. So I think setting it to a hotkey isn't a bad idea.
And then Andy also said that the unit issue has been reported. So, and then is part safe milling available as an option to be visually displayed in the NC Process Manager?
No, not currently. That is a great idea, though.
Yeah, it is. I think there's.
The in this particular case, one of the things you guys will notice, and I didn't point it out in the video, is when you are doing the 5X stuff, use stock is may be turned on by default, and your 5X procedure may be checked on. So I've added a column here for what is remaining stock or update stock, just because it will keep the procedure from actually calculating if you don't go in and turn it off. So it may be easier to turn some of them off here rather than going all the way in to the procedure.
There was one other question. Did we go over gun
Gun
drilling?
drill? We didn't go over gun drilling. There were no changes really to gun drilling, but we can take a quick look at it, at least maybe a quick look.
Yeah, the gun drilling is very impressive with all the new gun drilling, the new drilling tools, and how you have to control it with the pilot and full force, and then the cross holes, whether they're drilled or not. Slow down, speed up, reverse, stop the spindle, reverse the spindle, and pull out. All of that can definitely be handled.
So these two particular holes probably wouldn't be a gun drill, but we'll start with that, and we'll just see if I can grab an existing 1/4 inch MPT just to talk about it. Sequence doesn't match. We all know how that works. You get stuff that doesn't match where you thought it should be. This is the drill. I'll just right click and set that as the bottom. No, that's the spot drill. That's DP, set as bottom. Treadmill. Confused all the way around. So that actually needs to be down there at C. I don't know if this tool is going to make it. Not so much, but that's all right. The gun drill itself, or the drill itself, we'll right click here and we'll set that as the bottom. So that'll start at the stock point, and then the spot drill is going to go from the drill point. Then each of them can all start at ST as well, set as top reference. Now the procedure itself, if I change this to gun drill, when we go into the close that, go into the gun drill parameters, this is where we can set the feeds, the speeds, and the situation that's going to happen for each segment of the hole. So you've got a pilot depth if you've pre-drilled it with any guide depth. You control the feeds and the speeds, the coolant for each of these, even the spindle direction. So if you're entering an existing hole and you want to turn it counterclockwise for some reason, that's an option. You can also choose to bring it out of the hole with the cutter turning clockwise, counterclockwise, or off. You can shut the coolant off for the retract or not, set your feed rates, your spindle speeds for each of these. So if you want to slow it down, the system knows if the hole has been drilled. So it will slow down some amount before, in this case, 5 millimeters before the hole, with whatever you've got in this block. So if I want to slow down to 70% during the intersection, I can slow that down to 70%. The actual gun drilling portion is controlled right here. So if you've got a pilot depth and a guide depth, you would enter the values for those. If there was going an inch deep for a pilot and an 1.5 inches, we would choose to fill those out, adjust the feed rates accordingly. If once you've got that done, you would set all your ranges and you could save that out to your library. The one interesting thing that probably will make your life easier if you're doing any of this, there may be times that holes are drilled, but you may not have drilled them in Cimatron. So you have the opportunity in the manufacturing attributes to select holes and mark them as already drilled. So that is going to be right click, attach hole. So that hole is now already drilled. The system then recognizes that hole is drilled, even if you're not using stock in your model. So just a tip that might help you long term.
Here's an enhancement that somebody's saying. At the intersection, can you also have control of the spindle speed? You might want to change the spindle speed at that. So that might be a good enhancement request for the gun drilling.
During the breaches, the intersection, slowing the feed versus the spindle.
Yeah, the spindle when you're hitting the
Yeah,
intersection.
we can ask. I'm not sure. I'd have to weigh that out in my head whether I would agree or not. But if somebody that's doing gun drilling says it's necessary, then we can definitely request it, I suppose. Can check surfaces be added within auto drill to stop from drilling into it? For version 2024, no. It is a known request, and I believe it may be something that's being considered for the very next version, but no promises. Just always remember for your drilling procedures, it's a great idea to have like your vise set up and any holding material set up and simulate. The simulator would show if you were to crash through your part.
At what point will the new updates will we get or need new machine posts?
Hey, Ralph, I can answer this one.
Okay.
We shouldn't need any new ones. Everything is built to work with your current posts. So there shouldn't be any need for new posts.
Yeah, I think I'll chime in just a little bit. One situation where that may not be 100% true is if somebody is running a very, very, very old post and some of the drilling has changed over the years. So if you're running a very, very, very old post and something's not working right, it may have to be updated, or you may just need a new post from us. But until they add some new functionality that your post doesn't have the logic for, you would keep the same one. And then if some technology gets added that isn't supported, then at some point we may have to do a small update to your post. But we'll definitely, we'll be the second to know, because you'll probably know first.
Yeah, that's exactly true. I was looking at it more along the lines of, the software is outpacing the posts that you guys have had for years, and like Danny said, that's correct. If there are cases where, such as volume mill that was added, after most of you have had a post, or gun drilling that was added in version 10, where there will be some updates required to your post. And, there's some various other technology changes that were made along the way that, if it's not working right, you may need to have it updated, which you can just send it into support and we can take care of that for you. In the case of if you're using an old GPP1 post and you want to do gun drilling, then we would need to update you to a newer GPP2 post to make those changes. So even the GPP1 posts are supported even in version 2024. However, like Danny said, those were made well before a lot of this newer technology came on board. So if you want to utilize the newer technology, then you would need that newer post in that case.
So Andre says the guide spindle does not update with the material. So when the material changes, you're saying the spindle here for the guide depth doesn't update. We'll have to do some testing on that. Again, if you see those types of things, send them in, because it may just be that we haven't got the log on it from somebody, or it's always helpful to get logs in with good information. I can't stress enough how much good information is so valuable to our development team.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We had great attendance, and thank you for your time. And again, have a great day.